Now I'm recording. Anyway, I missed the whole beginning. Too bad. No, I'm just kidding. I'll redo it. So, while loops, while do push-ups. If I said do push-ups, while you have energy, do push-ups. While this statement is met, perform these tasks. If I said do 10 push-ups, for loop. For each push-up in my number of push-ups, do a push-up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. No more push-ups. The loop breaks. Range. Awesome for giving you like groups of numbers, evens, odds, negatives. Cool for counting. You may always not need it necessarily, but it's there. It's a kick butt tool to know that it's at your disposal. So that's important to know. You folks want to dive right into the group activities? Or any questions on anything in particular? Because I did state earlier, and I forgot to record that too, so I'll say it now. I am going to do another video where I go through all the challenges, and then I'll post that video like Saturday. So just in case someone's having a problem with the videos or the challenges, you'll see me go through them live, and I'll complete them all. And that's how that'll go. Let's see. So let's dive into the group activities. Any particular one you want to do first? You want to do Brutus the dog running and how many kilometers? See, I'm American, so I think in kilometer or miles, not kilometers. Number 2, you want to do the tough one first? Anybody else want to do the tough one? Cool, let's do the tough one. So we got to draw this. That doesn't look like any fun. All my years, I've never had to draw anything.
Hello?
Hello?
Oh, can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
It works now. Never mind. I was gonna say number 2, but I was still testing my mic.
Cool. Number 2 it is. There are so many ways to do this. There really is.
I hate you for saying that.
Yeah, there are. There's.
I couldn't even figure out one.
You could do individual print statements. You know, you can get away with doing that. I know you could. The thing that people overlook, and well, let's try to get there first, right? So I'm just going to remove all this welcome stuff and define main. I'll just leave this. Boop. Right. I'm going to make this full screen for fun. Not that it matters, but everybody see it fine. It's a decent size. Everyone's good. Man, it's already October. That's insane. This is flying. Cool. So what we have here is either one shape getting larger than smaller, or two shapes, one getting larger and then one getting smaller, or a bunch of different shapes at random. If you start to count how tall this is, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, right? So odd, it's weird. Let's see if we can get it going first. Just start printing stuff together, right? So there's a couple different ways you could do this. A lot of people try to do, they try to print the hashtags. And this is really a combination of using SEP in print and arrange. I know it sounds pretty weird, right? But let's check out the first one. You could do print, open, close, call it a day, and just do this, right? Throw that in there. Right. Save F5. It prints the top one. That's cool. You could probably copy that. Put that in the bottom. Now I got your top and bottom, but you notice it didn't separate it. Put them right together. No worries. We'll get to that, right? So we have our top one, but that's kind of like a range 0, if you think about it, or just 0 to 1, which is kind of unique if you think about it. Let's try it. Let's see if that makes sense. Could you say, let's make this a variable. Let's just say hash Oh, can't because hash is a key word, right? So let's call it hashtag. Let's call it H tag for short equals, and we'll just throw one of these in there. Gotta hit the right button. And now let's say print H tag. We'll come back to these. Let's see if we can get this using what we've learned in class, right? So we also have this thing called for loops. So we could say for what? For X right now. We're going to come back and rename that in range. And we only want to go one time. So let's just get that last joker there right by ourselves. For X in range of 0 through 1, print what? Well, we're going to print H tag. And for X in range of 1, I don't know if I like that. Let's save F5. So we get our top one. But now there's two printed together. What do you think of that? Well, you could do for that and go, okay, we have a for loop. And you could say for each X in range of what though? Why would I pick range? This is a pro tip. Spaces are objects too. So instead of saying for X in range, could you say number of spaces? Oh, my bad. Spaces are an object. So if you said for number of spaces in my range, now there's no spaces here, so that's starting at 0. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so starting at 0, going to stopping at 5, so I get 4, right? We'll do that. Step is automatically 1. And can you say now, print, and what you want to print is your hashtag. So this can get pretty wild here with the F statement. We're going to try it with the F statement. So you could say H tag. Okay. Got our H tag. But now the number of spaces. You can't really do the number of spaces because it's going to be a number. It's going to be 0, right? 0 in my range of, it's going to be 0. But what you can do is actually create a variable called space and put a space in it. And now you can do math. Let's go old school first. Let's say print, and we're going to print. Do I want to do that? We'll try it this way, and then we'll do it another way. I'm going to show you a whole bunch of different ways to do this. So we're going to print the actual hashtag itself and a comma. Now we have our spaces. So we're going to print now the space, but we're going to multiply it by the number of range. So you can actually say space times number of spaces, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, to give you the 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces in between the two hashtags. So instead of manipulating the hashtags, we're manipulating the space between them. Is that kind of cool?
Amazing.
That's pretty silly, but it comes in handy at certain times, right? So I'm going to go ahead and save this. I'm going to hit F5, and now it looks kind of awkward. It looks kind of wonky. Well, let's think about that. We said print this, then print this, and then print this. Well, our first math is 0 times space, so that should be 0, but there looks like there's more than that there. Remember, SEP default is a space. The SEP default is a space, but there's 2 there. Exactly. We told to print 1, but the default between objects in a print statement is also 1 space. So it's going to print a space between here and print a space between here. 0 times something is 0, but it has a space between this object and a space between this object, and that's where we get our 2 spaces. Simple fix. SEP equals nothing. Lot cleaner. Right? Isn't that nuts? So now that we have that, how hard would it be to flip it upside down and do it backwards?
Not very. You just switch the ranges around.
That's it. So instead of going from 5 this way, we'll do 5. We'll see if we're right. We'll just switch it naturally, and we want to count backwards. Because if we left it like this, save F5. Oh no, what'd I do? I didn't indent it. We'll just leave them all like this for now. It didn't do anything. Or did it? What did it do here? Anybody missing it? Default's +1. Starting at 5, going to 0. Yeah. Step is 1, so you never get there. If you do a -1, save it, hit F5. Now we're getting business, right? Now we're getting there. And then you can take this again, cut and paste it, put it at the end, hit F5. Almost there. This is incorrect. If we count that we had 11, I think we have 12 here now. So that's a simple fix. Just drop that to 4. It's kind of weird. What do you want to do now? Want to stop at 1? No. I want to go to 0. Let's think about this, because now this is just playing around with it, trying to get it right, right? So if you look at this, you start counting them. Well, 1 and 2, it's 11, right? So 1 and 2, you want 9 in between. 0 through 5 is 5 objects. And then 4 through 0 is 4, 3, 2, 1. 4, 0 through 5 is 5. It should be on the money. So now this is just an aesthetic problem. And let's take a look at what the aesthetics are incorrect. So what if we took this to 4? Okay, tighten it up. I like how this is going. Right? 0 may not be our best bet here. We want them butted up to each other. We said stop at 0, so it's really stopping at 1. And that's why we're getting this 1 space right here. So if we say -1, stop at -1 takes us to 0. We'll see if this looks any better. Cleaned up. Rock and roll. Now, there's a lot of argument that you could do with nested for loops like this. Python's going to draw the same thing. To nest these for loops doesn't make a bit of world of difference to Python, because here's what's going to happen. It's going to print this one thing first. And we could argue that we don't even need this, right? So we can get into a debate to where this is fine. And that'll print the same thing. Individual print does our top. End spaces 0 through 4. Could we get technical and say, could we write this in some wild loops and say, if range is 0, only do 1 hashtag, else print the 2? Like build logic, like where it checks to see if number of spaces is 0 or not? In other words, tighten it up, right? So could you say, okay, for namespace in range 0 through 4, you figure our first one's going to be 0. What if we started at -1? What if we started there? And if we said, if number of spaces is equal to -1, then we say this joker right here. Oh, I trashed it. You see that? Print hashtag. And now we could say else. And then print this. Let's see what we get here. And you're going to say, why do we want to do this? Well, we pretty got our whole first one up here, right? Yeah, we're starting to draw it now, but we're starting to use more logic, right? We're saying for number of spaces in range of -1 going to 4, if spaces is equal to -1, which the first one will be, print the hashtag as we get this lonely one. Else, in other words, if spaces is 0 or positive, print this joker, where we have 2 hashtags, and now we're dealing with the hashtag or the spaces in between. What do you think of that? Is that cool? How do we flip it? Can you do it backwards? With another else if? Nah, you don't want to do that, do you? What if our range started at -1 and went back all the way to 11, but we said if greater than this or if greater than that, start to take it backwards? You can get crazy with math here. This isn't a math class by any means, but I want you to understand there's a dump truckload of ways to solve this, and it's great. It's a lot of fun. So we got our -1 to 4 here, and this right here, let's undo this joker. For spaces in range 4, -1, and -1, let's say 0 again. And then I'm just going to grab the same logic here, and we'll see if this works. Right? No guarantees. That's okay. We got to practice. Save F5. Get in there. Close. Well, is it really 4 that I need? What do you think is the problem here? Let me comment this part out for you, and then we'll see what we do first. Okay, so the top part goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, gives us 5. So it gives us up to right here. So we're going to take this up a notch. We're going to say stop at 5, which is 4 spaces times number of 4, and we're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces in between, right? Number of spaces times space is going to give us a distance there. My bad. So now we have the beginning of our triangle. Looks pretty good. And now I think our 4 going backwards might clean up a little bit. Boom, boom, boom. Okay. It never goes to 0, right? So we have to say -1. It's sort of getting there. But what do we do here? Is that too many? How can I clean this up? Start at 3. Whoop. Getting there. Right? How many is that? 1, 2, 3. There's our first one. And then how come I'm never hitting this? Well, I don't think I've ever told to. If space is, okay, so if space is equal to -1, I told to stop at -1. So I need to tell it to -2, because now it'll hit -2. So this is another crazy way to do it. Right? What do you think so far? Two very different ways to accomplish the same task. Right? Let me get rid of some of this stuff. So this is our first one. This is our second one. And this we don't even need. Zip, zip. We got 2. There's more ways to do this. I think what I was bored one time, and let's try this. Let's try this little section right here. I'm going to copy and paste this from another one I have. Let's take a look at this. So this is saying for item in my range of 0 through 6, so 0 stopping at 5, counting by 1, print the hashtag end, right, ended nothing. For outer item in range of item, print space and print. Let's see what this looks like. So we got our first 2. This logic seems a lot harder than what we've done, and it almost pulls it off, right? Gets a little too big, I think, for its britches, which is easy adjustment. You just come in here and say 5, save F5. And now we got this. This joker's, the bottom one's drawing this half right here. So now we have a beginning for loop and a nested for loop that's passing the item. In other words, let's just say 0. For a 0 in my range, starting at 0, stopping at 5, print that, ending in nothing. So it prints that. For outer item in my range of 0, print the space, end in nothing, and print this again. So now we're instead of messing with separate, we're augmenting end, and we're basically saying don't do a hard return. Pretty cool, right? It's a different with logic, different way to solve the problem. And now when you look at this and you want to solve the other half of it, it would be just as easy to grab this, copy it, put it underneath it, of course. And now we want to say for item in range of, let's try 4. We're counting by 1. But that's our first print, not our second. So what does that mean? This needs to be opposite of this. So these numbers have to flip because we're starting at 4, stopping at -1, and we're going backwards by 1. We're stopping at 0, I should say. And I know this is difficult to follow at first. Still jacked up, right? We got our first half right here, which takes us to here. 4 is too high, we'll go 3. Almost there, right? We got these done. So what is incorrect with my range? Do I have to take it to -1 to get that 0 in there again? Getting there. Back to -2. Nope. Think of it. How irritating is this? What if we print this item and we say 3, stopping at 0, going to -1, right? Saved it, print it. Why isn't it doing it what we say? Well, it's doing exactly what we say. Why isn't it clean? Where's my? This is my first one, right? 3, 2, 1, stopping at 0. So let's go -1, save F5. So now we got them together, but how do I get 1 by itself?
Can you add another print statement outside of the for loop? But I don't know if that's exactly how you want to solve it.
You could simply do that, right? We could simply say, all right, is that as many as we need? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. There you go. There's our 11. Well, are we sharing one here? Did we ever finish? Did we ever finish what we said we'd finish? So we broke it in the beginning. So we never did have that. How can we get it to do it on its own? It would take a lot of finagling. And as a matter of fact, you'd end up with something like the first two that we've already done. But these are three ways that work. That's my point. Sometimes when you first look at text, it's not there. Ooh, we got the reversed range. That's pretty good. Have you used reversed before, Ellie? Eli? Who are you? I can't hear your voice. It's no fair. What do you think?
It's Eli.
Yeah, Eli, I knew it. 1L. Dang it. Yeah, so with this whole thing, man, there is a reverse print and there's a reverse range. There's all kinds of weird reverse stuff you could do. It's not mentioned in the book yet, but we'll get there. But this right here, the importance of understanding how to manipulate range is the tough one. I really doesn't bother me how you solve it as long as you solve it with a range. Now, could you do this with a while loop? Could you print this with a while loop? Could you? I don't see why not. Okay, cool. Tell me. For each number in my number, while this is this, print this. It doesn't make any sense. If you say it out loud and it doesn't make any sense, like let's walk through this. For each space in my range of spaces, space times 0 is 0. Print this. You can't say that with a while loop. Like you can't say, while I have a hashtag, print the hashtag, but every time multiply it by a counter number and then go backwards or opposite, right? You can make like counter 1, counter 2, and then while counter is greater than this, use that number and then remove one from the counter. So your counter goes down in number, and so does the numbers of spaces you manipulate. And then use your counter 2 so your triangle would be, your counter would go up in size every time you go up to, and then while equal to 5 and stop or break, right? And then your second while loop would be from 5, and every time you do the counter, you subtract 1, so you get that triangle. You can. I don't like it. I'm not even going to type it, but if you want to do it, let's do it. Let's do it. Blah, blah, blah. No, I'm just kidding. We're going to do it anyway. So let's talk about while, right? So while something is true, now we have, can we use range? I wouldn't. I would set up my counters. And what would my counters be representing? Counter, I'll just do that. Counter equals, they'd be representing the spaces in between, right? So my first counter is going to be 0. I'm going to call this start counter. And my next counter is going to be end counter. And it's going to start with how wide before we stop. So I'll say 1, 2, what is that, 3? We'll say 3. My bad. 3. So now we have this thing where we could say, now you can do while true for each do this, but while Why use a while without an operator and then a for in it just to break out of it? It makes no sense, right? Can you use a while this is going on, perform this for task? Yes, you could nest those two. It's fine, right? You could do all kinds of stuff, but you could say while start counter is not equal to, right? Not equal to what? Not equal to 4. And we could say print, and now we could kind of steal this. And we'll say print this. Oh, where are we going here? Because we're going to have one other one. Now, space is going to change, or is it? Well, we'll leave space. Number of spaces turns to start counter. Because counter will be 0, so these will be next to each other, right? Let's see if this works. Save, print. Oh my goodness. Why? Why did it do that?
You have to stop there, or you have to increase start counter.
Bingo. So now we just do start counter plus equals start counter. Ooh, that won't work because 0 plus 0 would always be 0. Well, let's test this out. We'll get a never-ending loop again. Oh God, why do I have a never-ending loop? I want to show you these because this is how you make mistakes and how you correct yourself. It's fine. Go, oh man, I just didn't add a 1 there. Save, F5, zip zap, done. We said, while start counter is less than 4, do this. Add 1 to my start counter. 0, 1, 2, 3. Awesome. Now we're going to just borrow this item. And we could add logic to do the print, and we will. So now we have this. I'm going to hit save, hit F5. Now we're starting to draw our triangle. Right? We got 1, 2, 3. Is it 4? Is 4 the biggest one? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so 4. So we want to go up to 5. Zip, zip. Awesome. Now let's flip it. While end counter not equal to 3, and we'll say -1 on end counter. And save F5. Hold your breath. What happened there?
You have 11 instead of -1.
Ah, there we go. What happened there? That was the only error. This has to be changed to 0. And now, whoa, what happened there? While end counter, while 3 not equal to 0, print end counter -1, but it never subtracted it. And what's going on here?
You have a plus equal sign. You might need a
Look at
minus
this.
equal. I don't know. Yeah.
No, you're right. Look at that. Look at that right there. We're an end counter now, not start counter. Cool. Now we're getting there. But now we're like, man, now we need to tighten this up. So we need to go to -1. Do you agree? Zip. Awesome. We did it. 3 different for loop ways and a while loop way. Let's go is right? We're kicking butt. Now, I would have never thought about this. Never in a million years. I did this for you guys. I literally, this is my first time, I think, in teaching this class in 6 years. I actually did a while loop and did this. I don't use while loops. I'm dead serious. Yeah, for real. Never used it. So this is funny. But the logic was there. Light bulb went off in my head, and I was like, oh, man, it's easy. It's just this. But you notice I'm not forcing a break. I'm not writing bad code to say, well, break, continue. There's places for those. They're built into Python. But if you find yourself using break and continue, often 9 times out of 10, you haven't thought the whole logic through. So you're intentionally breaking your code or intentionally continuing your code. That could end up in errors later down the line, right? But this is slick. I like the while loop now, but I'll never use them again. But I'm glad we did it, right? And what I'll do is, my bad. What I'll do is I'll just comment that out. And I'll put a comment here and put a drawing with while. Let's spell with right? And this will be drawing with for. And you can see this a different way. I'll just cut and paste it and put it everywhere. Cool. And I'll save this and I'll put it in the announcements for us for later. Sound like a plan? Cool. Get rid of that. Boop. Cool. So that's it for that drawing. Now, I think we flexed enough. I think we used for, range, and while, and all kinds of stuff. I think we used enough of the topics that were in the lesson we're covering. Was it 3? Yeah. But can we take a step further? Could we do something crazy? Totally. But let's take a look at the dog next, right? So I'm just going to leave this. File, save as, I'll say, whatever this is, I'll just save it right here. I'll just say group lab, right? Gotta name it right. Get rid of the template. 3, I'll say class. Perfect. So let's get rid of all this. What do I mean by that? I'll get rid of this. Get rid of that. Get rid of this. So we're all green, right? I'll put that right here. Put a bunch of spaces up here. Let's take a look at this dog. So let's talk about Brutus. Brutus is Labrador Retriever. Love to chase tennis balls. Good. You can calculate how far he's run using this formula. Distance equals speed times time. Those look like our 3, at least our 3 variables we're going to use. Brutus ran for 2 hours and ran 15 kilometers per hour. So kilometer times 2 hours equals 30 kilometers. Okay. So time times speed equals distance. Okay. We're not going to get into like variable. Did he slow down? Did he speed up? We're not going to do anything like that, right? This is just flat math, pretty simple. Allow Brutus's owner to input the speed of his dog. Allow Brutus's owner to input the hours he was playing fetch. Loop to display the distance Brutus ran for each hour like this. Ooh, for each hour. They used for. That's cool. So if I see the word for, or if I say it out loud when I'm doing my pseudocode, guess what I use? For, right? But we'll take a look. We'll just, they did a lot of this for us. So we'll say this. And I'll also do this. Because why not be lazy as lazy can be? Cool, right? You can group them all together and make them all pretty. Like some people like to do this and make them all pretty. That's fine. I don't care, but that's pretty. All right, so what do we do here? Don't need this anymore because we already got the bottom one. So now we're going to gather some input, right? Well, I'm just going to take it. They said it. How long? Integer, input. A nice tab. We'll do a tab. We'll do a colon and a tab like that. It looks good, right? Not bad. Let's go out here. Cool. So we got that. Let's grab this. Make that all line up. Make it all look pretty. We in business? Think we're in business? How long did Bruce play fetch for? 3 hours. Oh, what did I do wrong? That was me. Save F5. There we go. 3 hours. How fast did he run? Yeah, it's only 6 kilometers. Okay, so we got our input. Things are going good. But they want it printed out all nice. They want the hour, Brutus distance. Okay, so this is where it gets tricky. We could say print. Sort of cool. If you want to make it look real pretty, you could do a tab, hour / 2 tabs, right? And then Brutus's distance. And then you could close that. You can get trickier with this. We might in a second. This looks like a line break. It's probably like 34 of them or something there. So we could say line break equals quote equal sign times 35, right? Multiplied by 35. We'll see what this does. Could you do print line break? How long did you play? 12 hours, 4 miles an hour. Okay, so now we're getting somewhere, right? It's coming together. It's slowly coming together, but coming together nonetheless. So now we need to print out the logic here. What was, anybody have a concept of how we could do that? Think about it. What do we have? We have a total time. Total time is the top number. So could you use that? Where could you use that? Could you use that in a range?
Yeah. I did 4 time or yeah, can't see it right off the top of my code.
Or hour maybe for time or
4 time in range of 1 comma time plus 1 parentheses, and then I go into logic.
time plus 1?
Yeah.
Then you got all your fun stuff. Well, let's think about this. Our time is total time, right? So how long did Brutus play fetch in hours? So now you can get in here and say for each hour in my range, starting at 1, going to total time plus 1, because if you ran for 10 hours, you would stop at 10, which would only give you 9, right? Does that make sense? So you have to add 1 to time to get the 1 stopping at 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 is actually 10 items, right? So that's important to understand. And then here, we might have to move our logic here. Maybe not, but we will. Then we start messing with our speed, but our speed no longer is speed times time, it's speed times hour, right? And then what do we want to do? Then we want to print. Now we have our hour and our distance. Let's take a look at that. Looks right. Hour, and then his distance. Okay. So we could say print, quote, well, we'll just say hour. Now we have this. We could do 2 tabs, and then a tab, and then to say distance. Let's see how this looks. How long did Brutus play fetch fort in hours? We'll say 10 hours. How fast did he run? 5 kilometers an hour. All right. So hour 1, 5, 2, 10. If he maintained 5 kilometers an hour for 10 hours, he ran 50 kilometers. Cool. Does it look good? Does it feel good? I don't like this. That might be better. We're going to run through this, by the way. That looks a little better. So let's talk about this. Did all our fun stuff, right? Time is 10. Start at 1, which is this. Start at 1, 10 plus 1, stop at 11. So that means we're going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, stop. We're going to have our 10 items. Cool. So this is for 1 in my range. 1 times speed, 1 times 5 is 5. 2 times 5 is 10, 3, 10, and so on and so forth, as it counts up the hours. Sweet. To count backwards, what would we have to do? If we wanted to start at the 10th hour and go backwards, simply flip your range, right? Subtract the 1 and have fun like that and go 9 to 0 if you wanted to. But yeah, this is pretty cool. Could you say, can we do this with a while loop?
I think so.
Yeah, I totally can, right? And I don't want to confuse everybody of when to use while loops or when not to, because now you're seeing you can kind of rewrite your logic however you want. But let's leave this here, right? I'm going to print this line break a little higher. Now, let's just say while, what do we have here? We have time and hour. We don't have hour. We have time. So that's fine. We could use it. While time is not equal to 0, because we still have our time, right? I'm going to comment this out. While time not equal to 0, then what do we do? Well, we're going to have our time right away, right? Now, would you want to minus equals 1 or leave it itself? This gets kind of interesting because now, is this more complex or just a different way of thinking? While time not equal to 0, time is 10. While 10, false, perform this activity. And we want to do what? Do his speed, right? We're going to get his speed. We got his speed. We'll say it's 5. So now we want to grab the time. Maybe go backwards here, right? So now let's say it's a 10. So we say same thing, except here we're going to change this to time. We're not going to use hour at all. We're going to say do that, and then we're going to say time minus equals 1. Remove 1 from time. Let's just save this and run it. How long did he play for? We'll stick with 10. We'll save 2 just for testing. What happened? We never told to print anything, did we? Well, now we can steal this stuff again and just say, where's our print? Steal this. I just want this printed once. And then I want this printed right here. Print that here. Instead of hour, it'll be time. We'll say 10. We'll say 2. Ooh, 10 and 2. Does that do the trick? Yeah,
Yeah,
And-
it did, but just in reverse.
totally. Is it wrong? No. Could you flip it around? Yeah, a little finagly, a little change your logic. But my point is here, now you know why I don't use while loops. For, can you complete the same task with a while loop as a for loop? 90% of the time you can. Which way do you think? I think in for loops. It's easier for me to say, while this object from this group of objects, or for each item in my group of items, perform this task on that item. I think kind of physically, right? While loop is more logical, hypothetical. While this is met, perform this task. Sometimes humans have a hard time forecasting when they're going to be done in walks infinite loops, right? Now, could you say something like this? Could you say, I want to save this, right? So could you say in here an if statement, if time is equal to 4 break, else continue. What's going to happen here?
It's gonna skip a word.
Oh no, what happened?
You forgot to add the time minus equals 1 to stop it.
Where would I do that?
You would do it before the if statement.
Well, if I did that, then I'd subtract 1 from my time. Say if this was 0, right? Or if this was 4, while 4 not equal to 0, right? Print 4. If I did minus time, then it would be 3. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, so after your break statement.
Well, then it's broken. I'm already out. You see what I'm saying? Or do I do it here? Because now it'll be like, okay, we start at 10. 10, if 10 equal to 4, false, else 10 minus 1, continue. That sound right?
Not gonna lie, I'm a little shaky, but we'll see.
Say it out loud. Check this out. This is amazing, right? So time, how many? 10. Speed, 2. While 10 not equal to 0. While 10 not equal to 0. True. 10 is not equal to 0. True. Do your distance. Print time, right? Now follow me on this. We're still dealing with 10. While 10 not equal to 0. True. Perform this task. If 10 equal to 4. False. Else. 10 minus 1 stored back in time. 9. Continue. 9. 9 equal to 4. False. 8. 7, 6, 5, 4. If 4 equal to 4, break. That's exactly what happened. Isn't that awesome? So you can do it both ways. For loops and while loops. I always use for. It's a little cleaner to read, I think. I think I don't know why. Like while loops seem like there's more logic to it, but sometimes there's actually less coding. For loops just seem really easy for people to understand because it's like, while I have a full box of cookies, I'm going to eat them all. Nah. But for each cookie in my box of cookies, I'm going to try to eat one, right? And then when the cookies are gone, I'm done. It's the same thing, right? It's a preference. Now, where this matters, because if you're saying I could do the same thing with both of them, why do they both exist? While a condition is met, while machine responds to a ping, perform for each file on this machine, get me the hash. What if someone's about to turn off their machine and you're gathering data and then they just power off the machine or remove it from the network or drop their Wi-Fi or close their lid? And it's like, okay, I'm gathering data. Okay, I'm pinging. I can keep doing it. I can keep gathering data. Ping stops, can't gather data. Then I'm done. So you don't lose everything. You're still gathering data and collecting it while that machine is on. But the minute that machine goes off, dang it, I can't collect any more data, but you still save the data that you had before. That's real life. Pretty cool. I think it's cool. So you can combine these efforts too. You could say, while there's time, or while there's time, change to hours and say for each hour an hour. You can combine them both and do the same thing. While is Brutus, you could start off like this, right? You could do it a third way. I'm gonna do it a third way. Let's do it a third way. You could even ask running equals input. Is Brutus running? And then tell them to put yes or no, right? Just do a is Bruce running y/n:/tab, right? So now you got this, is Brutus running? So what can we do with that? What do you think we could do with it? Now we can say, while running is equal to yes, perform. I will take our line break out here and put it up here. Let me see if I can pull this off, ladies and gentlemen. So now you can say for each hour in time range distance, print the distance, blah, blah, blah. And you can say running equals, you guessed it, input. We're just still running? So now you could add logic to break stuff. I always do that. So what do you think of this so far? Like, what are your opinions? Is Brutus running? Yes. How long did he 10? How fast? 2. Is he still running? Yes. 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 But I'm done. Now, if I hit yes here, what's going to happen? It starts over. You starts over. So how do I negate that? Break. Yep. Check this out. If running is equal to break. Do I need an else? We'll see. Yes, he's running. That's our initial question. We got our 10. We said 2. Yes, he's running. Yes, he's running. So we got our hour 3, hour 4, hour 5. And now I'm going to say, no, he stopped. Yeah, works like a boss. You could put an end statement, maybe if equal to 10, print Brutus is tired. Yeah, you could do that too. We could totally do that. Else Ryan equals 0 or what else? Blah, 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 blah. Hour equals 0. Brutus is tired. You could totally do that. You could. So you're only limited by your own imagination, your skill sets, and your experience. Part of this class is me showing you as many possibilities with the topics we've learned up until now. That's how you gain experience. But you also gain experience by your ass in seat, fingers on keys, making mistakes. It's the only way you truly gain experience. Right? One could go to 10,000 seminars on how to do whatever, how to buy and flip houses and be an entrepreneur. But how many of those people actually walk out of that seminar with 1,000 people and actually do it and are proficient at it? See what I'm saying? You need to put in the work. You need to put the time in behind the keyboard. Cybersecurity warrior. How do you be a good cybersecurity warrior? Well, gotta do cybersecurity, right? But that's it. Those are the 2. Those are the 2 with many different ways to solve them. And there's even more ways to solve them. There really is. There's some other techniques that we'll learn in lesson 8 that you'll be like, oh man, that's way easier. I'm like, yeah, it is. But you have to understand these fundamentals first before you understand. Let me make a note to myself of things I want to cover with you guys. I already have 2. Well, I have like 7, but this one is called a switch statement. Switch, case, and a match, and a list comprehension. Comprehension, good enough. This is hension. I don't get paid to spell, but this is an English class. But those 4 things I will cover in lesson 8, and you'll all of a sudden your code will be like, okay, 6 lines, and then it'll be 2. But you can try to use these advanced or intermediate methods now, but the problem is you don't understand the fundamentals of what's really taking place in the intermediate code. It's really just, a lot of them are just pointing at the old way of doing it, or not necessarily the old way of doing it, but the simpler way of doing it, except it does it under the hood for you. But you need to understand that logic. You need to see how it flows. While this condition is met, perform this. If this is true, do this, else don't. For each object in my list of objects, perform this task. When I'm done with objects, goodbye. These are all excellent, super excellent, fun things we've done tonight, and I cannot wait. And I hope everybody else watches this, because the views of the videos are very low, by the way. And I had to take that into account because only a couple of people responded to me via email or in class, in real life class too, that they want more videos. Well, then I started thinking, and then I looked at the number of views in the videos and started, the same people who are asking me for more videos are the people who are watching the videos. So that makes sense. Which is very low. But anyway, I'm going to do it because the more exposure, the better. I'm dead serious. No one is a visual learner. That's a bunch of garbage. I know some of you are thinking, well, I learn by seeing. Then how do blind people learn? I work with a blind coder. How did he learn? You see what I'm saying? There's no such thing as a visual learner. I used to think there was until I met a couple of people who can't see, and that instantly I'm like, okay, you just have to do this stuff. You have to break a bunch of eggs in order to make an omelet. You have to do this stuff. It makes sense, right? So just during this class, question your own logic. And here's what I want you to take away from this class, right? One of the biggest things. I want you to take away many, but this is one. You're not always going to be right. You may be correct in that instance at your skill level, and it will give you the correct answers you're looking for, but that doesn't make you right. That just makes you deal with objects and display data properly to meet a requirement. This is not a right or wrong class. This is more of an artistic flow, right? And the more educated you get with scripting, the more nuances you learn and understand the algorithms, your code becomes smaller, more difficult to read for the novice, easier to read for the pro, and more efficient, usually. So where you're at, most of you are at, you're at the beginner stage, and that's perfect because this is what you're supposed to do, the fundamentals. Learn the fundamentals first, and then build on that experience. It takes time. It's awesome. It's cool. I've been teaching this course for a while now, and I seriously learn something new about the fundamentals every time I do redo this course. It's amazing. It is pretty funny. But Python 3.12 is coming out a couple days, I think. Pretty excited. They got all kinds of new stuff in it. I'll have a class. Well, one of our videos, I'll talk about all the new stuff in 3.12, and if it pertains to the fundamentals, I'll talk about it because I'm sure there'll be plenty. But is anybody looking for Python 3.14? Get it? Python? Bad joke? Is that a bad joke? Version 3.14 is Pi. Get it? Hate it, love it. I thought it was funny. Ah, man, yeah, I get it. But anyway, in any event, these are the two group exercises. Kick butt. Any questions on the group exercises at this time?
Really quick.
Yeah.
It's actually not really quick at all. The second one, is it possible to do, it's all the way down there. Is it possible to do the first for statement to get the 11 hashes and a second statement to do the spaces? So like if I were to do 4 number of spaces in range 0 to 12, is it possible to do it that way? Because I tried to do it that way for so long, and then I did it your way, but kept messing up.
Well, this isn't my way. This is the way that I know. There's a couple different ways I know that work, right? Yeah, it's not necessarily my way. My way is I'd look at this and be like, I'm not drawing anything. This is stupid. I don't need this. like literally, I'm not drawing it. Next, like whatever. But but it is for class. But the thing here to take away isn't to focus on can we do it in one move, because this is actually forcing you at our skill set right now. Now you can do it in one move, but we don't know those commands yet, right? What we know right now is 4 loops in a range going positive, 4 loops in a range going negative. Be happy with where you're at in the moment, right? But later on, as we discuss other topics and other new ways of doing things, the light bulb will click on and be like, oh, I could have used that back then and waited fast. Well, yeah, totally. You could have, but that you can't learn everything at once. You know what I mean? We have to learn the fundamentals and practice those and then move on. That's truly knowing, knowledge, put to the test, right? But we will get there. At this level, I would say be happy with where we're at, because the logic gets real tricky if you try to do it all at once right out the gate. But keep trying. You might make it, because to go negative, you'd have to do like for each object in my object, do this. If my object is this much, well, then start to go this way. You see what I'm saying? So you could do it with a for loop and a couple if else's, or if elif or else, and then you could draw your first one. If it's greater than 0, add another one. when you hit the 4 spaces, if space is less than 4, then start to take it backwards. So you can do it in one for if, elif, else statement, I think. It'd be sloppy and long, but you could do it, right? You could. I think you could. Because you'd start it, the key here there would be your range would start. What was the range you mentioned? What was the
I
range?
mentioned range 0 0 to 12.
Okay, 0 starting to 12, and you're just going up by 1. Right? You're going up 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? Now
Yeah.
you could say you could do your print stuff here, right? Now just think of there's some logic here and some print. Right here, you could say if item 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? 5. If item greater than, greater than 5, now you start to take the item yeah, that was right. Minus equal 1. So now you never really use your back half of your range, because now you're saying, okay, if 6 is greater than 5, true, item minus 1, well, 6 minus 1 is 5, so then you start to count backwards in the same range. Pretty tricky?
Yeah, I think that's why it was so hard for me to get it.
But does that make sense now that you see it in code?
Yes.
Isn't that sick? So even if you have a list of 11 things, and you could even make this even more legible, right? If you want 11 things, you could start at 1 and stop at 12. Is that 11? No, it's 10, right? Is it 11? No. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. That's 11 right there. But do you need your zeros to do something? You might. But could you do logic to say if item is equal, if item minus 1 equals 0, print alone hashtag? Isn't that cool? So now you can get crazy with this. You could say if item, right? Now is what? Is what do we want here? If item, so if 1, because I'm starting at 1.
If 1, print a hash.
If item less than, or you could say equal to 0, but when will it ever be equal to 0? You could say if item equal to 1, right? And then if it's equal to 1, then you could say item minus equal 1 to give you that 0. And then you'd have to up your range to 13. You see where I'm going with this? So mathematically, you could twist your range to equal 0. So if item equal to 1, you do your first print statement, which would just be that, right? But you'd want to if item equal to 1, item minus 1. So you don't even have to do that. You can just say equals to 1. But if you want it to 0, you could do all kinds of tricky stuff. You're only limited by your imagination, is what I'm telling you. You could really take this out of all the bounds, and as long as your logic is met and you're not tossing errors at Python, it's going to perform whatever task you say. If it's wrong, but Python does not throw you an error, what's that called? If your output is incorrect, but Python never throws you an error, what type of error is that?
A runtime error?
No. False positive? No. Logic error. Even though your logic, the way you typed your logic is correct, but it gives you the wrong answer, or it keeps going. It doesn't give you what you expected. That's a logic error. You need to correct your logic so it gives you what you want. Python doesn't know if you want it or not. It's gonna equate whatever you desire and then give it to you.
So
runtime error. You could call it a runtime error, but runtime, usually something in a runtime error, something breaks in memory. Like there's something wrong with the hardware that doesn't allow you to complete your task. You like a blue screen of death, or like a blue screen, a BSOD is more like, oh man, I'm running my script, I'm running my program, everything's cool. Oh, I ran out of memory. Boom. You see what I'm saying? That's kind of like a runtime error. But a logic error is if I say, if green equal to green, print red, but I meant print green, that's a logic error. Because Python will print red. If green equal to green, print red, it'll print red, but I really wanted to print green, and I made that mistake. That's a logic error. Python's going to do what I told it to. No errors are tossed, but red will touch the screen. But yeah, you could do this. This will beat you up a little bit. This is a trickier way to do it, to try to get it done in one. But another thing in this lesson I want you to walk away with is that, let me hashtag this. Let me comment attempt in one range. Learn how to break things down into how you know how to solve it. So I'm going to go back to my civil engineer analogy. Build a bridge across this valley. Okay. So what do engineers do? They go out, they find how deep is bedrock, they found how deep the bedrock is, they understand the area, they survey the area, they understand the weather, they understand the pressure, precipitation, how much rain the area gets annually. They do all these small micro things, and they go, what are the best materials to build this bridge out of over this distance at this location? And then they start to go to the drawing board and draw their bridges, run through scenarios and stress tests in computer digital worlds, and see where they break and sag and twist and tilt. Then they augment their design until it's flawless, right? Isn't that cool? Now are you afraid to drive over old bridges? That they couldn't virtually test them by throwing data at them to see where they'd flex or crack. I mean, it doesn't catch everything, but I don't know, it's still helpful. But yeah, I like where you folks are going, and like really pushing yourselves and test yourself and going, can I do it this way? Yes, it could be as simple as how we solved it earlier. Print it, do a range, print it, do a range, print it. It could be as simple as all print statements, but you're not really using anything new. Right now, this nested for loop, this is pretty important. Where's that nested for loop one? This one right here. What is this reminiscent of?
The lab.
Yeah. So I'm not going to do the lab, right? Because I'm not. But if you said numbers equal, and then you said range of chessboard starts at 8, stops at 0, it goes backwards -1. Cool. And you can call it letters if you want, and just go A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H. Right? One of these things, you just flip them if outer, if inner. This is a great example of how to solve this riddle. Because remember, for all intents and purposes, a string of strings, which is your list of, it's not really a list, it's a string. You don't need to make a list here. You could use a list, but you don't need to, because for each item in letters, print the item. Oh, I gotta save it as something, huh? Save it as chess. Good enough. What you get there is you get all your letters. And if you were to just use this again and say for each num in nums, print num. What do you think? Can you finish it? Yeah, you're gonna have to, because as far as I'm going. But there's some creepy stuff. High key, you what already did it for us? No, I didn't. There's a lot of stuff in here that's gonna go wrong. Trust me. There's a lot of stuff right here. Or if you leverage this, you should really leverage something like this, a nested for loop, flex a little, and perhaps even ask the user, would you like to play chess? Yes. While playing equals yes, draw the board. Do you still want to play? Yes or no? Draw another board. See what I'm saying? You could flex here. What I mean by flex is use everything you've learned up until now. Use a while loop. Do you want to play chess? No? Okay, bye. Yes? Okay, I'll draw you a chessboard. Draw your first chessboard. Do you still want to play? No? End. Break. Right? It's important to guide the user with, hello, welcome to the Python chessboard challenge. Would you like to play? Yes or no? While you're playing, draw the thing, and right, get a clean beginning, a clean end. A lot like writing a paper, except way shorter at times. You want to do that. You want to guide your user. I have this junior fella at work, real sharp. Started scripting about a year ago. His scripts are novice, but they're good. When he writes stuff, it just goes right to it. And you don't know what it's doing, you know. And as a user in cybersecurity, especially a junior person who doesn't understand scripting, perhaps they don't know what the script is really doing. Tell them every step of the way. Write host to print output. Blah 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 blah. This is what it's doing. Please hold on. Large files take a long time. Please stand by. Add a counter. We'll learn how to do that. Lesson 8. I'll teach you how to add a progress bar. You can do all this fun stuff. So scripts don't have to be chintzy and bad. Are they programs? Yes, they are. Can a script be a program? Yes, they're the same thing. What's more elaborate? Scripts are usually designed to solve one or two problems really quickly. Programs are these giant things that pass data along with each other and could go out. You could do 10,000 things inside of a larger program. It's, in my professional opinion, keep your scripts doing 10 or less things and be really good at those 10 or less things. And then the minute you start to move out of that gap of 10 things, build another script that does those different things, and then allow them to communicate. And then you keep building on it. And then eventually you'll refactor your code and be like, I could do this all in one thing. And you get pretty smart with it. But what do you think so far? How's it feel? Pretty good? Pretty bad? Right, I know it's late. It's getting late. Let's go to lesson 4. This is where I lose everybody. Lesson 4 is where everyone loses their mind and grades go downhill and things get horrible because it's like you forget everything we've learned up until now. Lesson 4, don't worry. You have 2 weeks to cover. I'm going to be there with you. I'm your guide on this tour, right? The thing about lesson 4 is if you write a super good paper, rock, scissors, or what is it, rock, paper, scissors, you will be 65% of the way done with your final. No pressure, no stress. if you write a good script here, you could use it as a bones for your final, and it makes it a lot easier. So pay attention, right? Let's see. A lot better compared to before class. Good. Good. Yeah, that's what I'm here for, man. Taking that pressure off you. Right? And don't sweat about lesson 4. We have 2 weeks to cover it. It's really not that bad. I've been discussing a lot of this stuff as we've been building. So it shouldn't all be new to you. But don't worry, it's coming. You got plenty of time. Some people have been working ahead, and I just wanted to cover that. They're having problems with lesson 4 because we haven't worked on it together. But don't sweat it. We'll be there. Focus on what's at hand, iterators and generators. I know for a lot of millennials, it's hard to be present in the now. I know you're thinking, oh, this old guy doesn't always talk about. When's the last time you slowed down, put down your phone, focused on what you're doing right there in that moment, and really tasted your coffee? Because you won't like Tim Hortons if you really taste it. You like that full circle? There's a lot of things that'll be pretty funny. So, but slow down, be present. It's hard to do. The minute you've learned how to be present, you could solve any problem with the fundamentals. I guarantee it. It might be ugly and long, but you're going to solve it. And a pro might look at it and go, dude, that's junk code, but does it work? Yeah. Okay, so it's not junk code, right? It's important to tell you too. Just because it doesn't look pretty doesn't mean it's good or bad. Eventually you can go and pretty it up. Or if not, I still have a lot of horrible looking scripts I use all the time. So many comments, so many errors. Yeah. Mindfulness is tough. It really is. It takes that breath and go, yeah, this is where I'm at, and I'm okay with it. But we're here together. Yeah, I'll go ahead and stop the recording. I think we covered quite a bit. Stop.